Good evening, and welcome to this week's episode of the Hearts of Men podcast, sponsored by the Empowering Perspective community. We are your hosts for this evening's conversation. I go by Dwayne Dwyer, also known as the Mindset Coach. Over to and my brothers who are with me. I'm gonna start from my left, right? I'm gonna start with my youngest brother. I'm sorry, the youngest brother. I'm going to the other side. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm gonna go to the other side. The youngest brother on the panel. We're gonna go with Mr. Young Timothy over there, also known as the son of Timothy, Mr. AvailableMan.com. Yeah, that's your website, right? AvailableMan.com. I love it. All right. To my left now, we're going to go with the next youngest, my brother from another mother, Mr. Chris McClellan, across the table with Chris. All right. Below us, these two bearded gentlemen below us, starting on the left side, you have Mr. Poor Man's Dr. Phil, the brother minister, Roland Walker, and also to his right, you have Mr. Build Your Creed himself, Mr. Garfield Martin, also known as the Uncle Junior. Gentlemen, how are you?
I am well.
Well, swell, and ready to get it in.
Well, swell, and ready to get it in. I apologize. I didn't have your names on, man.
Yeah, that's all right. You spoke them. You know.
I spoke them. That's all right. Everybody knows
you just spoke them into existence, just like that.
Just like that.
And I'm doing well. And I just wanted everybody to see, the the gear, not the little gear. I'm sorry. Yeah, we got the gear.
Yeah, the swag. I see y'all.
It's what they call it? Moisture weakening.
Moisture weakening.
Feel good, Hey, this made me feel like I had a couple of dollars in my pocket. I had to put on the brand.
Hey, man, don't pay him no attention. Here's a funny thing, though. He did send me a picture. Telling me, man, I feel like I'm part of the community now. That's what he does. Brother Timothy, how are you, sir?
Man, like Uncle Junior said, I think he said, I'm doing well, swell, and staying out of jail. How you say it?
And staying out of jail.
Well, swell, and staying out of jail. Man, that is awesome. Listen, I want to make sure that, again, I greatly appreciate these brothers, man. They are truly a part of my family, and I want to make sure that I say that in front of everybody. And just like they're a part of my family, so are you guys in the chat. Man, we want to make sure that we extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you. Good afternoon, good evening, Michelle Ray, Cassandra McKenzie, Bernadette Simmons, good to see you. Miss Charlotte Jordan, it is always an honor to see you in the chat. Lisa Keys, welcome. Bernadette, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate that. And thank you, Michelle Ray. We greatly appreciate that as well. Before it's all over, I'm going to have all these brothers squared away. Chris is in the mail, so he should have here soon. And I'm going to make sure Garfield gets his first thing in the morning. JJ Wilson, I hope I said that right. JJ Jaja, I'm sorry if I'm from Georgia, don't judge me. Welcome to the show. And it's always good to see you guys. And listen, if there's anybody out there, if this is your first time, by all means, look in the bottom right hand corner of your screen and you'll see a little icon. Go ahead and put your cursor on that and subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, that's okay. Jump on over to YouTube. We'll still be there waiting on you. And I want to make sure that I give a special shout out to all of our super supporters. You guys are awesome and just great value. Listen, we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks creating a positive family environment, and I hope that you guys are really gotten something out of this conversation, because again, like I said in the beginning, a lot of times we just had not even considered it, right? We didn't even know it was a positive or negative. It's just our family, so we just roll with the punches and never considered, at least I know I didn't, I don't want to speak for you gentlemen, I never considered whether or not it was a positive family environment or not. It is what it is, and I just went with the hand that God dealt me. But I want to make sure that I appreciate all of my family members, because I don't want anybody to take any offense to any of the things that we're talking about right now. This is just spoken from a standpoint of awareness, so that we can move forward and so that we can grow, so that we can be better for the generation to come after us as well. So that's really what these conversations are geared around. Wendy Rodriguez, welcome to the show. Always good to see you. So again, this is where we're talking about creating a positive family environment. And as we already know, this is the definition that we really started off with. And again, the key that we want to make sure that we're stressing during this piece is that this is all about helping our children build the necessary level of resiliency so that they can handle the struggles of life. And some of the things, I admit, what I've seen is that some people struggle when it comes down to certain challenges. In other words, if it's not a linear equation, they go through all types of anxiety and then they start blaming people and all kind of stuff like that. So the key here, all in all, parents should have this social setting within their home for the betterment, and I have to stress that piece, for the betterment of their children. And that's what this conversation is all about. Now, we've already talked about it, and we kind of ended the show with this last week, right? So we kind of talked about a few things in each of our talking points, and we talk about some very important keys. And I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna hide these brothers for a minute. I hope they don't mind. And those key points that we talked about was literally all about showing love and appreciation, spending meaningful time together, actively cooperating and working together, and modeling and teaching respect for each other. So, that being said, gentlemen, I want to ask a question, and it's all about these things up here: awareness, wrong side, awareness, reflection, and synthesizing, right? So, the key here is first, at a certain point in your life, whether it was last week, last month, last year, whatever, you had an awareness about one of those four talking points. And then you reflect back on your life to where there were moments where you actually did it all wrong. Perfect example, showing love and appreciation, right? You may have done it all wrong. What was the lesson that you learned from the awareness that you now have to the point that you realized that you were doing it all wrong? And how are you pushing that forward to your children, your grandchildren, or some other person of the younger generation?
I'll take discipline. When it came to disciplining my children, I would I tried to discipline like as I was disciplined, not knowing that I was disciplined by my great grandmother, who, if she's my great grandmother, that makes her ancient, to us. And she's coming out of the Jim Crow era, right after slavery. So when it came to making sure you were in line, they had to beat you everything. And not that some spankings or whoopings, we don't get no spanking. I'm be real. Some whoopings were necessary, but sometimes it could go overboard. And sometimes people, when you don't understand them, you will go overboard automatically. You drop something on the floor, I'm gonna beat you, or something like that. So I think starting out with parenting, I would do that, and then I would learn that the punishment doesn't necessarily make the it doesn't fit the crime. So it's not necessary. It's other ways you can teach, other ways you can lead, other ways you can instruct. So that's where I had to learn that the old way wasn't right for my home.
Very good, sir. Very good. I really do like that explanation, and I think I'll jump on it next, because for me, and I don't know, I think I took this one on last week with spending meaningful time together. Because in my mind, it's like, and I think I probably mentioned this as well, like the normal understanding of men, we provide and protect. So for me, as long as I'm working and providing for the home and all of that good stuff, when it came down to spending meaningful time together, it was like they got the leftovers, right? So my kids and my wife during that time, they got the leftovers. So I would go work from sun up to sundown. I'm coming home, I'm tired because in between, I went to the gym in the morning, then I went to the gym at lunch. So by the time I get off at 7 p.m., I'm exhausted. And when I get home, it's like, yeah, good to see you guys. I really don't have any energy. And so kids are excited to show them, hey, dad, look, I got an A. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Because in my mind, you're supposed to be making an A. And so for me, spending meaningful time, it wasn't really meaningful. It was just spending time, because I can tell you just based upon hindsight, I didn't really give them a lot of positive memories at that particular point in that current state of awareness that they can actually think about, resonate with, and say, yeah, we did this. Now, don't get me wrong. There were some times that I would just act a plumb fool with my kids. Like there was this video game, man, I can't remember. It was like a dancing game. And I just came back from Iraq. And man, it was funny because they videotaped the whole thing. So my son at that point in time, he's about every bit of 5. And so we're doing a little dance with Justin Bieber. And man, I look like a straight idiot, but I didn't care because my son was enjoying himself. And so at least as long as I would do that ever so often, I thought I was doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But why couldn't that be every day? Why couldn't that be at least a common thing that we actually did? You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was like, spending meaningful time. It probably wasn't meaningful for the long term. But then another way to look at it is that daddy was home. You know what I'm saying? And so, when you look at it from a different perspective now, some people can say, well, if dad is home, regardless of how much he do or how much he put forth, all that great stuff, some people don't necessarily have daddy to come home to. So it's a number of different ways that you can look at that. And then I will spin off of that one and go to actively cooperating and working together. When I went outside to wash the cars, it was just me. When I was outside cutting the grass, it was just me. So with that mentality, when they in the kitchen cooking, it was just them. When I went in the kitchen to cook, it was just me. And I think for another way of looking at it is that why I didn't try to turn those into like family events. Like why didn't I bring my son, even though he's probably 5, 6 years old at that point in time? I could have had him out there with a play lawnmower pushing around as I'm cutting the grass. Just kind of getting him in the mindset of doing those things. He could have been out there playing in water as I'm washing the car, and then I spraying down some water hose and getting wet so I can get in trouble. Stuff like that. Stuff that we men do that's silly, but it's also fun and it creates lasting memories. So that's just kind of like my point of view when it comes down to that.
All 4 of those things lead me to the same point that I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, pretty much since I've been coming on this panel. Showing love and appreciation and spending meaningful time together and actively cooperating and working together and modeling and teaching respect for each other all boils down to it not being about you. That's what it all boils down to. None of this is selfish because all of this involves putting what you feel is necessary into something else that's bigger than you. The family is bigger than you. That's the awareness that I got from it. If we're talking about reflection, I ain't seen none of this coming up. I didn't see none of this coming up. So now I know what not to do. So I can do the opposite. I don't have any children. I'm still single. So I haven't synthesized anything, but I know what not to do when the time comes. So I'm going to just leave it at that.
Awareness, reflection. Here's how I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna talk about the actively cooperating and working together in the sense that I was married previously for 19 years, had 3 children. I have that family. I got remarried last year. I have a new family. Constantly evolving when it comes to actively cooperating and working together. You know what I mean? The way that things were done in my first marriage is not the way that they're done in this marriage. Um, with every relationship, with my relationship with Coach, my relationship with son of Timothy, my relationship with across the table with Chris, and my relationship with Roland. All of us, I have actively had to cooperate in order for us to be able to work together as the same thing in my relationship. And since we're talking about a positive family environment, like I still have a son in the house. You know what I mean? My wife is in the house. So it's like I have to be active at trying to cooperate and work together with people in my house with different personalities, different awareness levels, different levels of information, different experiences. So, with all of that, I am constantly having to self reflect and I'm constantly being aware of how things were, how things are, and how we want things to be in the future. And that comes with constant evolution and constantly being active at cooperating, working together just in general. So I don't know if I hit the target, but I was trying to kind of bring it closer to where we are today in our relationship and what I've learned. And this is how I am now based off of what I've learned. And one of the big things is you have to actively cooperate. You have to be intentional with cooperating with your person and working together for the greater good of the relationship. And that goes with all relationships. That's why I mentioned all four of you gentlemen.
No, not only did you hit the target, bro, you were spot on. I greatly appreciate that. Last but not least, Mr. Son of Timothy, brother, if you don't mind sharing your perspective.
I'm gonna deal with showing love and appreciation, right? Because kind of like Mr. McClellan over there. A lot of this stuff I didn't really see. I didn't have active relationships present in my life, or at least at the forefront, to where I was able to glean from it. It was a lot of toxic relationships and weird stuff going on around us. But in saying that, one of the things that I struggled with in relationships, period, was the fact that I felt neglected when it came to love, appreciation, or any of those things. I believe I took the wrong approach to unconditional love, right? I tried to endure mistreatment. I tried to endure manipulation. I tried to endure so many things for the sake of keeping the love alive, right? Giving out appreciation where there was none given back. When I felt spent, I would still continue to spend myself and pour myself out to a point that it started hurting every relationship that I was in. And when I even when having kids, I felt myself pulling back from the family because of what lacked and what I forgot to do, or what I didn't understand about love until I started reading and trying to really understand the scriptures, right? And I've read the scripture, for he chastens those whom he loves. Now, I'm not saying go chasten your spouse, right? Let's just be clear. But I had to remember that I mattered as well as they matter. Because the only way that I can continue to pour out into you till death do us part is if I'm also getting appreciation, if I'm also feeling love, if so I'm not trying to focus on me. I need you to focus on me. But sometimes I have to voice that. And sometimes I have to bring it up. Hey, we're missing each other and we're going to lose each other if we don't fix this. So these things are important. I think we sometimes we get too caught up with trying to love hard and love good that we allow ourselves to be neglected. And now it's as if we have no more love to give because you're tired. And that was an eye opener to me. So there is times in your relationship where you can say, hey, time out, because we're pretending like everything is good, but it's going south. So I had to learn that. Love and appreciation is very important, but you have to ensure that if you're going to spend the rest of your life in this relationship, you're not forgotten and left out of this relationship. Because that's really, I believe, what kills a lot of relationships.
Bars. You know what? I'm sorry. I really do want to ask the question, and this is for everybody because brother, you just said a lot. It's not just about one person, right? It's uh it's both sides. It should be a symbiotic approach when it comes down to that. And I like the fact that you kind of shed some light on that, because if I'm not sensing it or if it's not there, how do I know? And this is for everybody. How do I know that I'm not just stuck in the mindset of what I think love is supposed to be, as opposed to what you perceive love is?
Dude, you need to say that again. Like, real talk.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that was the question. I thought you was just talking.
Yeah, I
no,
did
no,
too.
that's
That's why I'm just like,
that's
I
a
want to hear the
question.
question again, but at the same time, it's like the people in the back need to hear that.
Because I think this is one of, like, man, you went there, and I'm gonna talk about this in a couple of weeks, but I don't mind getting started now.
Yeah.
How do you know? How do I know that I'm not just stuck in the perspective of what I believe love is supposed to be, as opposed to what it is?
When it hurts,
Say more.
Mm.
when what you think love is plays in your head is a detriment to you moving forward, or you just don't feel right, that's when you're in your head. A lot of people have this warped sense of what love is, and love means that you're supposed to stick with this person, or you're supposed to stick around with these people, even though they doing anything and everything in their power to make sure you don't go nowhere and you stay put and you don't grow. That hurts.
I like that. Also, to add to
Go
that,
ahead. Go ahead.
I think for me it would be sacrifice. When you're willing to sacrifice your wants, your desires, your needs, and everything for the other person or for the betterment of the whole.
To your detriment.
Yeah, I will bring myself low so that we can rise. Other than that, because if it was just up to me, I'm doing my thing. But I want everybody to look good. I want my loved ones. I look like a bum. You look good.
I think when boundaries are constantly being crossed, when there are boundaries or things set in place and they're constantly being disrespected or they're constantly being crossed. If there are boundaries set up in a relationship that A, B, and C is okay, and then it's like a little bit of A to start tinkering and start messing around, and the next thing you know, it goes totally left because maybe certain things haven't been addressed. So I think sometimes when those boundaries are constantly being crossed, it's like, I don't know, because then it's a lack of respect because we have boundaries, we've created them together, we've talked about them and discussed them, yet you feel or think that it's okay to cross certain boundaries.
See,
Ooh, I want to
Go
hear it,
ahead.
Chris.
no, see, all of everything that you described and somewhat to what Roland described, because when you say you're going to bring yourself down and put your family up, I don't necessarily see that as it being like a painful, hurtful thing. And I don't see that as like a painful, hurtful sacrifice, because you're sacrificing yourself for the whole. And as men, that's kind of a base level thing that we're supposed to do sometimes. Sometimes we got to let some stuff go so that way the legacy goes forward.
It happens
So
every month. When
right.
men get paid,
Real
the
talk.
first person they do is they pay the mortgage, they pay the lights, they pay the water before they go buy a pair of shoes. Before they go to the
Absolutely.
store to get a Slurpee, they have to make sure that their priorities are taken care of first. Then
Ab-
we get to go and do
Yeah,
stuff that
then
we
we
want
can
to
have
do.
fun. But
Yes, then. But we
initially,
have taken care of the family first, making sure that everybody got somewhere to sleep at night. Everybody got a bed. The lights is on so kids can do homework. You know what I mean? The oven works. You know what I mean? So the
that's
wife
why I
can
don't call
cook.
it a painful sacrifice.
It's
It's
not.
not
It's
a
what
painful
we enjoy
sacrifice. It's
do.
what you're supposed to do.
We understand
Yeah.
it's our role and our responsibility, and men of value, they don't have a problem do it. In fact, they enjoy it. At least I do. I love being a provider man. I love doing what I do.
And thank
I
you for saying that.
and-
love
Thank
it.
you for saying that, because this is where the disc. I said I wasn't gonna do this tonight. I said I wasn't gonna do
Do
this
it.
tonight. I promise. I said I was gonna be good. But Uncle Junior just hit something on the spot. I'm gonna go back to when you were first describing all of the things that were kind of a bad thing. All of that involves hurt. And since love to us, we're talking about it as an emotion. When somebody pushes your boundaries, somebody disrespects you, somebody doesn't adhere to what you need, so that way the union can function, that hurts. So when you know that it's hurting you, that's that's not something that you're supposed to feel when you love somebody or when you're with somebody that says that they love you. Now, since you brought up the provision thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that's been lost for some strange reason. Our reflection doesn't view us like that. They view us as they got to do everything by themselves, because we don't do that. And you just described how much fun it is to provide for your people, which is
Look,
how we are built. Thank you for saying that, Coach. I really hope you
So,
clip that. I really do,
so Ke-
because that's something that needs to be shouted from the mountaintops. We want to take care of you, ungrateful.
I'm clipping
We
everything, by the way.
we want we want to take care of you. We do. We're just not gonna fight you to do it. And I'm gonna shut up.
that part right there.
so y'all kind of just laid everything I wanted to say out perfectly for me to make it simple. When doing your part no longer feels good. When provision is no longer fun for me. When taking care of the things that I provide is no longer fun for you. Somebody's either one or two things is either happening. Either we're underappreciating what the other person brings to the table, or we're not appreciating at all. Let me not say that. Or we're not getting the appreciation from the other person. And I think that's what make things no longer feel good. When I get my money and I'm like, I don't want to pay no bills. These mo could sleep in the dark tonight as far as I can. That because there's a disconnect. Something in that line is cut. And so now there's no electricity getting through. And something is wrong. Something has to be repaired. And so when I feel like I'm operating in autopilot, like I know things get bad the moment I go to the store to buy me something, and I don't go, what that woman want to drink. If that's not a thought in my mind when I go, because that's me. Me, whenever I go out and I buy something, I always try to think what my wife wants, right? But the moment that I no longer have that thought, I'm like, she got water at home. There's a disconnect. Something cut the power that's connecting us. And so now we need to go through and we need to do some as the medics would say, we need to do some triage. And we need to see where the issue's at so that we can start working on it. And if we're not willing to work on it, and you think we finna continue in this toxic environment, not at all. Not I
So
say the cat.
I want to make sure I'm understanding what I'm hearing here, because I want to make sure that I'm crystal clear and everybody else is completely understanding. So what I'm hearing you say, Love is a facet of responsibility.
It's an action word for
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely.
It is an action word for us as men. We show you we love you by doing for you. We're not if a woman didn't introduce you holding hands with her and you rubbing your thumb over her knuckles and bringing that into the situation, it wouldn't be a thing. But if I can make sure that you are very taken care of to the point where you really can just chill, that's how I show you I love you.
But what if that ain't my thing?
What do you mean? Is it what it now? See, here's the thing: is it not your thing, or is it what you think that thing is in that movie that you got playing in your head that stars you as everybody in the cast?
But
Or
don't that work both ways though?
No.
or you just haven't been taught what it looks like from your perspective. Too often we got women being taught what they're supposed to gain from a man, and we got men being taught what they can go get from a woman. But somebody out there is not teaching what you're supposed to do.
Wait, hold on. I need you to say that a little. Give me some more of that.
This man turned his
I was
chair.
about to go. I was about to go.
Give me some more of that, sir. Give me some more of that.
Because we can't continue to send our kids out into this world as in what they can gain from everybody they encounter. If that's your mindset, what can I gain from everybody I encounter? Yeah, I'm gonna use the overused word. That's not you borderline a narcissist. Like, but at some point, you have to be able to give back to whatever it is that you're involved with, a relationship, an organization. You can't pull. I bet you all of you Greeks out there don't pull up to your sororities or fraternities without paying your dues. You ain't showing up to the event. I know that.
That's why this shirt reminded me of that Alpha Train. But it did, man. I was like, oh, I started
with y'all.
But I like what you said. But when it comes to men being the head, I don't give back. I give. See, because if I'm giving back, I'm one of the man. It's like I'm one of the people. I'm the head. I'm leading the thing. So it's gonna function with or without somebody else. Because I'm giving whatever is in me, I'm giving it. And I think the way we got to what Chris was speaking on earlier, somebody was speaking on earlier, how women got to this point, men got to this, like they want to lead, this, that, and the other. I think that became a societal norm. And we've been dumbed down by our devices, our phones, our TVs, and other people telling us how we should live, how we should move. And then the parameters they put in place for whether it be welfare, all of our systems tell us you're his equal. Yeah, you my equal, but I'm still the head. But they don't put it like that. You know, the women. I don't want to get into the suffrage movement and all these other movements, but the movements kind of moved us out of place. And then we fell in line because somebody was teaching us that was believing that. So we said, well, they don't need us. I'm gonna fall back. And so they say, okay, you can fall back. I'm gonna take the lead. And when they took the lead, they took it.
But Ro, can I jump on that real quick? Because a synonym for the word equal is the word same. And I think when we started trying to be the same, we no longer became essential to our relationships, to our families, because everybody's trying to bring the same thing to the table. Mm-hmm. I don't need you to bring what I bring. Right. I'm already bringing that.
Are they?
So we're equally important, but we're not equal because we're not the same.
I'm 100% with you.
Because I'm not going to ask you to change no oil.
Okay, so can I keep pouring fuel on the fire? I'm sorry. So let me make sure I'm understanding. If we're equal but not the same, then how can you, who is not the same as me, tell me what my responsibility is under the construct of love?
Uh-oh, he breathed through his nose. He got some.
Okay, fine. It's not through the context of love when it comes to, honestly, because we don't view love the same. It's not the same when it's we don't love the way our women love. Our women don't love the way that we love. Our women love by taking care of things around. We show love by making sure there's an around for you to take care of. It's not the same. It's not. So, yes, I get to tell you, hey, I need you to do this because I'm doing this. And I need you to do this because without this, I can't do what I need to do. And if I can't do what I need to do, everything crumbles. I have to do these things. So move, get out of the, quit trying to be me and you at the same time in this union. It will not work because, to be honest, a lot of us will show you just how bad you don't want to do it by allowing you to. And once you start complaining and crying about it, the first thing out of our mouths is, didn't nobody tell your dumb ass to do this? No way. Move.
He started with Luda 316.
Hey, Michelle Ray gonna throw something at him in a second.
I know, right? Garfield,
Nah,
you
man,
about to say
because this
something.
is a conversation that we've been having for a while, and like I said, man, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the whole. I'm tired of how afraid of each other we are. I'm tired of how we're competing with each other to do the same thing the same way. I'm tired of how we're trying to get another person to do what we think they should do instead of allowing them to be them and then acclimating. I'm sick of all of this, man. Like, it's goofy,
Right.
and
But
people are just.
we're pushing it to a different place tonight because we're still talking about creating a positive family environment. I just wanted to hone in on what Timothy was saying because it is first taught in the home. And the problem is that there are children being raised who have no earthly clue on what love looks like because they think it's like. And so they spend the rest of their life going around making people like them through the art of manipulation, and they're calling it love, and then they will call themselves withdrawing themselves from you if you don't give
Oh,
them what they want. That's why I'm doing this right now, and I'm doing it intentionally. And trust me, everybody is spot on. But what I think Michelle Ray probably hit the nail on the head. And I was just leaning. Women don't love men. That's not what the Bible said.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's it. So when you're telling me that you love me, you're really trying to be me.
We in a relationship, you have typical relationship. You have men, women. We have different roles. We are not supposed to be doing the same thing. It's up to each individual relationship as to who plays those roles. It is what it is. This is 2023. I think that as long as each individual person plays their role, it's going to be great. Triangle offense with Phil Jackson and the Chicago Bulls. Great work,
Had to be
right?
Chicago, huh?
So, and I think, a lot of times, and this may be to something that Chris says, and I know we talk about it sometimes on Wednesday night when Antoine talks about it, as far as, yes, we have a business part of our relationship. However, as Coach was talking about, when it comes to creating a positive environment, I can't just focus all of my attention on just my job or just my professional or just my career.
Right.
You know what I mean? I have to provide. I have to do what I do. Like Chris says, move, chick, get out the way. All right. I clean it up.
It's Luda 316 again. And listen, I want to make sure I'm
So,
clean. I want to make sure I clean up what I said as well. Because if you don't prescribe to the doctrine that I prescribe to, then that message that I just said was not for you. If you believe in the 50-50 thing, then go forth, be
yeah,
blessed, be
yeah.
happy. You know what I'm saying?
And
I'm
then
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
And then what you have to do, so you can't do that. You have to spend time, especially when you have children, you have to model behaviors that you want your kids to display when they become adults and they start choosing their
Absolutely.
wives and choosing their husbands and stuff. Because we are creating or inspiring or teaching the next generation. So when they go up and it's time to get married, what have they seen from us? So yes, we have to focus on, as men, what we have to do. We also have to ensure that we carve in time to do what we must do
Right.
for our offspring and their upbringing and growing up, because they're going to leave us. And when they leave us, they need to have something. Yes, they can continue to come to us. However, let's set them off with a good, at least a solid foundation. Not saying that I was perfect, not saying that I did all of that. You know what I mean? However, what I've learned, and we go back to the beginning talking about reflection and awareness, I learned now. I understand now. I understand where I messed up. You know, so going forward, I ain't having no more kids, but however, I've learned from that, and hopefully somebody else can benefit from what I've learned.
I like that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you good, big bro.
I think we're here because we are trying to model what should happen. But sometimes we don't realize that when we marry up with people, we marry up with people with a lot of baggage. Grandma was crazy, mama was crazy, daddy was this, daddy was, granddaddy was that. So when you marry up with that, you marrying up with that person, but they come along with all those behaviors that they learned growing up. So that's why we have to be that generation to change that, because instead of them modeling what was crazy or what was the norm in their house that ain't gonna work over here, we can teach a pattern, or sometimes you got to unlearn some things. But we have to be that. We have to model those behaviors, because we used to have this saying, do as I say, not as I do. And people say, no, yada, yada, yada. But that's a similar thing that Paul said when he said, follow me as I follow after Christ. Because I'm liable to fall. I'm a flawed man, but I can tell you what to do and how it show you how it should look. But you can't always trust in me. You got to trust in yourself, because I'm liable to fall. But when I fall and I get up, you got to give me that credit too. So we got to make sure that as we're modeling these things, nobody looks at us like, oh, they got it all together and that's the cream of the crop. No, I'm a flawed man just like you, but I'm trying to teach you the right way. I'm gonna show you the right way, but sometimes I don't cut it. I don't cut the mustard.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to kind of jump in here because, man, listen, I want to make sure I'm letting everybody know how much I appreciate you guys, because you guys are spot on in the chats, right? So trust me, I'm seeing you, you're adding value, but these gentlemen right here, they got a pressure cooker going on right now, and I'm just basking in the ambiance. But listen, I want to make sure I kind of, shout out everybody. Michelle Ray asked a great question. I believe we already answered that question. So, Michelle, I don't want you to think I missed it. Shaking Nations of Jesus Christ, welcome. Good to see you again. Good to see you, Queen V. It's always a pleasure to see you in the chats. Lisa Keys asks, is it difficult to cultivate family time? Gentlemen, real quick, is it difficult to cultivate family time?
Yes and no. If it's a priority, it's not difficult at all. It's just like brushing your teeth and taking a shower. If you make cultivating family time a priority, it's not difficult.
I would say when the family as a whole, right? Mommy and daddy are both doing things, or our schedules reflect that our mind is on our family, then finding family time, not only does it become easy to fit in, but it becomes automatic, because if we're both focused on the things that are necessary for the family, it has to intertwine at some point, I believe.
I like that.
When I was growing up, we knew dinner was on the table at 6 o'clock. That's how it was. Now, if you don't eat at 6, you can't go in there and make nothing at 7:30, 8 o'clock. You better drink water and walk slow. That's what my grandma used to say.
Kitchen closed.
Yeah, the kitchen closed. Don't go back in there. But nowadays we don't sit at the table and eat. We don't do certain things. So we teach them to be a splintered or separate model of a family.
I'm gonna use that drink water and walk slow. That is hilarious.
It is.
I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in all of this, right? Because I agree with you 100%, but I also agree that it's based upon the decision that you make at what stage of life you're in. If you make a decision to get married early and you have not yet gotten yourself to a certain position, then both you and your spouse are on a grind. You are grinding, you are working hard, you're doing all of these things. So you may not necessarily have the time to dedicate to specific family time, or it may be late at night, at a certain point in time when you're getting ready to put the kids to bed. That can be a time that you segregate for just family time. But as you hit, like, I'll say, like midlife, or whatever the case may be, or prior to midlife, when you guys are literally just working for at a different stage, you're working, but it's more so about meaning and self-fulfillment, not, as they say, chasing the bag. Well, like Uncle Junior said, you now prioritize better because your priorities are different than what they were when they were younger. So at that stage in your life, I actually believe that you can prioritize more time for your family and actually take trips and do all those great and wonderful things that everybody like talking about right now as they seek to live their best life.
Can I give a quick alibi?
Absolutely.
On that difficult time, it can get a little challenging as they get older and they start, especially if your kids are in sports and different things like that. Because there's training, there's kids doing here, some different kids doing that. So it can be when you have a very active family, especially participate in extracurricular activities and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry, Chris, did you want to add anything to it? I apologize.
I had my learning pad out.
I got you. I got you, brother. I got you. Let me see. I don't want to miss anybody because you guys are awesome. Rhonda, good to see you. Liz, welcome to this evening show. Always good to see you. Um, Let me see, Mr. I'm about to mess this brother name up. Tamaraz. I'm sorry. Yeah, please, brother Gaddy, please let him know I didn't mess his name up on purpose. I got a Georgia education. Yeah. Welcome, Mr. Tamaraz. Good to see you. Nikisha, good to see you. Um, Yep, that's the same person. Listen, for all of you who are listening, wherever you're listening at, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, do me a favor, go ahead and hit the like button real quick because these brothers are really laying down some great information. And I think we're all finding value in it. Lisa Keys, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you. And we want to make sure that we give a special shout out to all of our super supporters out there. So, again, thank you so much. Shell, again, hey, oh, Miss Uncle Junior, what's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you. Listen, Lisa Keys put this in the chat, and I like it. When the intent is looking for someone that looks good on paper, or is a 10, or a power couple, all these mindsets are in error when it comes to unions. I can talk about that for the next 20 minutes, but I think we've done a great job with hitting that, with beating that horse. And now we can kind of dive into a more of a different type conversation in conjunction with that, because again, we're talking about creating the positive family environment. Again, don't forget, hit that like button. I should see about at least 10 likes going up right now. So when we start talking about creating a positive family environment, I think we can all agree that it is all about how we communicate that going forward. Do I get any disagrees here? Anybody disagree with that? Right. So we talked about teaching. We said we're responsible for teaching that. And it should get to the point. Let me move this out of the way. It should get to the point to where we are teaching things to our children. So one of the first things I want to bring to the table is that as parents, we need to talk about it all. I'm going to say it again. Talk about it all. Nothing is left untalked about. Now, if you are a parent, I'll do it first. Trust me when I tell you, there were some things I steered clear of when it came down to certain conversation, unless it posed a threat to the family. So when it came down to talking about boys, I ain't gonna talk about no boys with my daughter. I let mama talk about that. You tell her about boys, because I don't want to have that conversation. My conversation is going to sound very combative. I don't want to have that conversation. In fact, you ain't getting no boyfriend until you're 30 years old. I literally remember saying something of that nature. Hey man, I'm being honest. So
38 to me.
there you go. So as a child, boy or girl, and I'm inviting you in the chat to answer this question as well. As a child and parent, what are or were some uncharted conversations that we should have had, or are currently having, or plan to have with your children?
I got 3 boys, and I'm a son. One of the conversations that I wish I've had with my father is, since we're talking about it, and in order to have a family, you need to have a spouse. So I wish that early on I had got those conversations about how to pick a wife, what values I should look for, all of those different things like that. You know what I mean? So I think that was key, and I think I didn't have anybody telling me, "Hey, you know what? You know, protect yourself, don't get nobody pregnant," all of these different things like that. Yeah, I heard these things in the street, but I never was really sat down and really talked to about these things. My ninth through 12th grade years, my father wasn't around then. So my those years I was growing up, I was a little scrawny kid. So um there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. I didn't know how to be a husband, didn't know how to be a father, didn't know any of those things. And then I left home, was in the army halfway across the world, halfway across the country by myself, and still, 19 years old out there flapping. And next thing you know, I'm missing, my ex-wife and missing my son just because we're away from each other. And it was like, oh yeah, you know what, dummy, you should get married. So you hear everybody, what you gonna do with your son? All this, you hearing all of these different things in the military, all these different things, blah, blah, blah. But because I didn't have those conversations, I'm not saying that I would have listened. I don't know, if had my father been around, would I have actually listened? I really don't know. But had I listened, I would have liked to have some of those conversations about how to choose and how to pick. Going forward now I've learned a lot more of these things. I didn't necessarily teach my sons this stuff early on because some of this information is fairly new to me, last 4 to 5 years. So just right there, how to choose women is definitely conversations that I wish I had, and conversations that I want to continue or start having with my other 2 sons who are not married. Not necessarily about how to pick women. I don't want to get it twisted. I want anybody thinking anything wrong, but just maybe some pros and cons or some values that you may want to look for in women. You know what I mean? Because you have a woman whose value, she values herself and she's like, you know what, I'm not a woman who cheat. This is my value. No matter what, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to this. And no matter what situation comes along, they're not going to do it. So have
So
those conversations about how
So
to choose.
here's why I like what you said, because what I'm hearing you say is you're helping you would prefer to help your son dissect the confusion that's going through his head, because you got to realize at a certain age, you got hormones kicking in and he don't know, is it character, is it looks, is it I mean, let's be honest, you got TikTok, you got Instagram, you got Facebook these days, and everybody's on their half dress and shaking what they got, right? And we grew up as what Uncle Luke, shake what your mama gave you, right? So that's what they're doing, right? And that's enticing to young individuals at that particular age. So what I'm hearing you say is that you want to help them young men decipher through the red tape.
Yes, exactly. You know, I've learned some things in the last 4 or 5 years when it comes to relationships and women and men and myself in particular. And just kind of steering them in the right direction. Like I said, offering support. Um, everything that look good ain't always good for you. All money ain't good money.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know y'all better go before I start. So
Yeah, you're right.
I think Chris gonna have something to say about this one too.
bring it to us. No, we got some.
Well, Roland been parenting for about like 30, 39 years now, so 40. Okay.
34.
Nah, I was just being petty. But
You got me beat by 7.
yeah, you got me beat by like 27. But in my young parenting, my oldest child is my son, right? Uh and for me, I think what Uncle Junior said is still important to me, but because of the dynamics of our blended family, I'll use that term, because of the dynamics of our blended family, I don't think, I think too often, especially nowadays, we do this whole, oh, grow into your own person mentality to a fault, to the point to where we stop teaching about character flaws and about how to treat people and one another. That's something like, and we talk about not having fathers around. I know when my father separated, that was something that I stopped learning about until I got older and started become going around men again, because my father, that was one of his things: look a man in the eye, shake his hand, say sir, to that's your elder. How to speak to people, how to show forth good character, because relationship building, I find out, is very important. So there's certain character flaws that I want my children to be careful of, because some things are very present in our dynamic, that I want them to also be able to see without bashing, because it becomes hard, because you don't want to bash the other parent or stuff like that. So you got to try to teach them, hey, this is just not good characters. You don't need to be acting like this, lie, and I don't know. I know it sounds like something that should be taught every day, but it's something that I don't believe is being taught anymore. Simple character building, because that make or break relationships. That's networking that you're destroying. That's relationships you're destroying. That's jobs you probably miss out on because you don't know how to look your interviewer in the face. So I think that's something that's important to me for my son.
Man, I like that. I definitely like that. The character building piece. Chris or brother minister, what you guys got? Yeah, I think Chris, you better go first. Cause once he start preaching, it's over.
Hey, he's still writing too. That's the crazy part.
Wow.
Academy.
I guess one of the main conversations that I plan on having with my son or my daughter is that love doesn't hurt. It doesn't. It isn't supposed to. And the moment you feel like it does, say something. Also going to teach my children that they can come to me with anything. Yes, I'm going to get mad. I might throw a temper tantrum. I might snatch you up because you did something stupid. But at the end of the day, you can come to me. You can trust me enough to do it. And that's where I'm going to start. I can go on about the later year. Well, actually I am. And when we get to the later years, I'm talking high school, I'm going to teach them just how important, if I have a son, I'm going to teach him just how important his seed is and how selective he has to be with it. If I have a daughter, I'm going to explain to her that her womb is the most important place on this planet. And she cannot allow anyone to invade that unless they are going to do what they are supposed to do as a man. And yes, they're going to have to go through me because I'm going to vet them for you. You're not going to make no stupid decisions based off your little emotions. He's going to come through me. I'm not going to scare her, and I'm not going to scare her with the stories of the things that I did, projecting how I was onto the men that are present. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to allow her to make decisions, and we're going to actually have conversations. It's not going to be transactional. It's not going to be manipulative. It's not going to be authoritative. It's not going to be one of those, you under my roof, so you got to do what I say. It's going to be one of those, I need you to do this so that way I can do this for you. So that way when you get out of here, you won't need to come back here. You understand what I'm saying? You won't need to come back here. I'm going to give you every tool that you have to progress. And I'm going to be with you every step of the way. That's what I'm going to do, because that's what I never had.
Bars.
First, all these fellas on here that have daughters, there will be some young man that's gonna talk your daughter out of panties. Period. You did it, somebody gonna do it. So don't think for once that, oh, he not, she not go, he not go, I'm gonna hold her in prison. Nah, somebody gonna try to it. I say that. But you teach them what's right. You her father, you her role model, you her first love. What I would teach, if I could go back, is identity. We don't grow up with identity. We grow up with everyone else's identity. We come here, and I'm a person, I'm a history person. So I understand that slave ships came to the Americas, but I understand what happened before that. So you have to teach who their grandfathers were, who their grandmothers were, and go back as far as you can go. And then continue to teach beyond that. Because when they have identity, they're not worried about who somebody else calls them. They know who they are, and they know what they stand for. They know, oh, this is not something that we do in this house. This is not something that we stand for. And I was always told that if you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for anything or something like that.
If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
There you go. Same thing. Yeah. And that's where we are. We got to teach our children their identity. They have to have a culture. We can't just keep gravitating towards See, people think I just be mad at things when I say I don't celebrate that. I don't do that because that's somebody else's culture. It's not mine. So, but I may say, okay, happy, whatever, do your thing. But I know for me, I have to see what it is that builds me up, what it is that builds my children up, my house, my family, my culture, so that we can't just be grabbing for little trinkets from everybody else. We can say, man, we actually have this. We actually have some things in common with some positive people. And then we're not looking for everybody else. That's why when it was President Barack Obama, when he was president, a lot of people cried because now they can see for the first time somebody that looks like them at the highest office in the world. You know, people might, I think it's a system, but don't matter. You could see that, man, I could actually achieve that because some people don't think they can achieve something that they don't see themselves or somebody that looked like them in that position. That's why all I can be is a basketball player, a football player, a rapper, a dance on the pole. No, you can be more than that when you have identity. And that's what I started with.
Yeah, so I don't have nothing to teach now. So I'm not gonna lie. That was my point. Identity was exactly what I was going to say. So I'm 100% vibing with you because it does not matter what problem we have in this society. If you got relationship problems, identity. You got money problems, identity. You can't hold a steady job, identity. You have subsurface relationships or surface level relationship, identity. It doesn't matter what the problem is. It will all go back to your identity. So just like you said, bro, that's where I'm starting at. I'm agreeing with Uncle Junior. I'm agreeing with Timothy. I'm definitely agreeing with Chris because you guys, I don't have nothing else to teach, man. I'm moving on to the next. Thank you guys for being so thorough. I am going to jump the gun because I want to make sure that we have time to talk about this one. Talk about feelings. Now, I know I said talk about it all, but I think this one is a whole different category of talking. So, that being said, what is the significance in helping your child, boy and girl? I need your help in the chat. Help us out with this one now. What is the significance in helping your child identify and label their feelings? I think Uncle Julie looking for his.
I think the first thing is knowing how to identify and label your feelings, because we live in a society, like, you don't realize how much Roland actually said in that last segment, because we don't realize how much we live in. So our community, we just bask in trauma. Like it's a flood in our community that to where some things just seem normal that when you meet someone and they tell you that that behavior is not normal, you look at them like, oh, you're a hater, or you're this, you're that. Like you throw a label out there, you put a phobia on something because they said that mindset is not, because we bask in trauma, like we swim in it every day. It's everywhere, and a part of it is that concept of being nobody. Like I'm not going to be limited, and you shouldn't be limited to being like, my history starts with getting off of slave ships. So from the root, I'm nobody. And so as we grow, we have to learn how to start to point out and how to identify our own traumas so that we can now deal with them. Because I think that's what starts the process to helping us see clear enough. And we can start to purely mark out what things look like. Then we can start teaching it to our kids, because because here's the thing: when you don't know how to identify or how to label or how to deal with your feelings, I think for girls sometimes you look for someone else to take on your feelings, because I think we always focus on men, on the boys. You know how important it is to teach our boys that you have feelings, but the feelings can't dictate your life. Because as men, we can't stop providing and protecting because my feelings are hurt. That doesn't work, right? But sometimes I think women also expect us to take the emotion and feel it with them. I can't do that and effectively help you deal with it or comfort you through it. Is any of that? I don't know if any of that made any sense, but it did. It did to me.
It does. It does. You're good.
The significance in helping your child identify and label their feelings. The significance is the level of trust that child will build with you. If you can help that child actually map some stuff out, first of all, they won't be out here with the rest of these guys out here playing like it's Grand Theft Auto in real life outside. One, and two, they'll come to you with anything. Hey, Pop, I got this feeling and I need to work it out. Hey, Mom, I don't like the way I'm feeling right now and I need to talk about it. They'll come to you with anything because they trust you. They trust you enough to listen to them.
I think
That,
Oh, were you done?
I was trying to figure out if Roland. Sometimes I don't know when Chris done or not. So I was just going to
I'm
ask
done,
you.
man. I'm
That's
done.
that passion, man. That's that passion he got.
Hey,
like, is he creating a silent pause for effect on purpose?
That's what it is.
I'm just waiting. Yeah,
drama.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, Roland. I'm like, are you going to get anchor leg on this, or you want me to
Pause for dramatic effect.
I'm like, hey, are you done? Are you finished?
I'm done, man. Y'all can go ahead.
I think we need to be able to speak to our feelings. If you can't, when identifying it, you know, I'm kind of stoic, and I was brought up in the military. My father was in the military, so it's like a lot of stuff don't move me emotionally. But I have emotions, but I understand that me getting emotional doesn't fix anything. And I think we need to teach our children, okay, identify what's wrong. How are you feeling? One, you got to be able to say it. Say what you're feeling and say what made you feel like that. Tell me the W's, the what, why, where, and all that other stuff in it. And how do we get past it? Because you got about 5 minutes to do all this feeling stuff, because we can't stay there. We can't stay in our feelings, be mad, crying. This is me. Because when you stay there, what you do is you foster a climate that to me, it's a defeated climate. And you will stay in that zone. And now you will tell yourself all the negatives about this feeling. And now depression comes and all anxiety and all these things. So I say, let's talk about it. Let's work through it, and let's identify it, talk about it, work through it, and see how we can get past it. Because if not, you're going down a slippery slope, and where next step is therapy.
I like it.
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go this way. Um, I'm an elementary school counselor, so I work with kindergartners, pre-K through fifth graders every day. So I'm looking at the I can statements. What can a kindergarten or first grade student be able to do at their level? One is I can identify basic emotions like happy, sad, or mad. Another one, I can use words to talk about my feelings. Here's another one with self manage. I can identify ways to calm down. I say that to say this: kids, when you have children, we have to remember that they're not adults yet. So, for a certain amount of time, they're going to be kids. They're going to have to deal with people in school. Kids are at school awake more than they're at home awake. They're only awake at home for about 4 hours or so. So what they learn at school, a lot of times is going to bleed over into what happens at home and vice versa. So this is why it's extremely important. One of the reasons why it's extremely important to teach your child about how to label their feelings, because they're going to have to interact with other students in school for the next from kindergarten through 12th grade. And if you don't want to be getting in phone calls and all these different things like that, if you have a child and your child is constantly being disruptive because they don't know how to manage their feelings, it's going to affect the family dynamics. When you're having to be called in to come to school every day, every other day to pick up your child, you know what I mean? And it affects your work and you run out of PTO time because your child is undisciplined or because your child doesn't know how to manage their feelings or label their feelings and manage their feelings and different things like that. That can affect you the overall family dynamics because if you lose your job, what's going to happen to the amount of money coming in? Are you going to have to rotate or can you only work certain schedules? You know what I mean? Because of your children. So you know, and at the same time, if we don't teach them how to label their feelings, they may only pick up the negative things that we display as parents. We have positive displays of affection with our children. Um, with the adults in the house, usually with the a husband and wife. And then, we have displays where there may be some aggression or some fussing and different things going on, where your children are soaking up both. And you have to teach them because they need to learn how when I'm at school, yeah, I seen mommy and daddy fighting last night, and mommy told daddy this and daddy told this. Where you can't go to school and tell little Susie what mommy called daddy last night at the dinner table. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's so important to be able to identify those feelings, label them, and to not only label them, but talk to them, have a conversation about them so they're able to understand and feel them and express them when they need to.
Man, I love it. I love it. Listen, before I get started, listen, if you're in the chat, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Twitter, go ahead and hit the like button real quick because these brothers is dropping some serious science. I want to add to that. I think it's important that we actually hear this and think deep into it because you heard some phenomenal responses to this. Mine is going to sound totally different because I think we have to destroy the fantasy early. If you can destroy the fantasy early, then you get them in more of a realistic state of mind. What am I saying? If you do not help your child understand, if you do not help your child understand their feelings early in life, they will struggle having a clear identity of reality. Why? Because everybody on this panel has been a child at some particular point in time. We have children. Children, they have a way of using their emotions to get what they want. Well, if that happens, then what ends up happening in the long run is that becomes a norm. So if I allow the crying and the whining and all of that stuff to move me to change my mind, then as they get older, it's going to sound a lot similar. As they get older and move out of the house, they're going to do the same thing with somebody else because I gave my daughter and my son their way when they were under my roof. So they're going to want another person to do the exact same thing. Here is the reality of the truth. What we're going to have to get comfortable with helping people understand is that your feelings are not reality. I know somebody does not agree. That's okay. Just consider it. Your feelings are not reality. Your feelings are simply your understanding of reality based upon your current level of awareness. I don't think that there's anybody on this panel, in the chat, or any place else that can tell me that my current sense of awareness is 100% reality. If my current sense of awareness is not 100% of reality, 100% reality, then the way I feel about reality is not an actuality. You understand what I'm saying? I could be upset that the mailman, we just talked about this earlier, right? I could be upset that the mailman comes at 7 o'clock. But who does that affect? This guy and this guy alone. The mailman could care less how I feel about what time they show up. I think that's the thing. So when we identify how we feel about reality, it is my responsibility to take a look at why I feel the way I feel. Once I identify why I feel the way I feel, then I go back to whatever source document I subscribe to. If it's the Bible, great, go to that. If it's, whatever it is, you go to that. If it's just your feelings, good luck. However, if it's the Bible, if it's the Bible, I compare the answer that I just got to the Bible. Once I get that answer that helps me to understand that I'm within right standing to feel the way I feel, now I have a legitimate reason to go out there and talk to the mailman. Hey, bro, I'm gonna need you to come a little earlier. But if the Bible does not validate my feelings, the only person I need to have a conversation with is me. That's it. That is it. So I think when we have these conversations early, what we understand is that we help our child have a better understanding of reality and they do not move in the space of manipulation. I think that's important to understand. Y'all got a lot going on right now. What's happening? It helps us to move in the space to where we're not using our feelings to manipulate anyone else. That's important to understand. If we don't teach it to them early, they will literally live a life of manipulating people and moving people within their space that allow them to manipulate because the other person has a flawed identity just like I do. And I think that's where I'm at when it comes down to helping our children have a good understanding of identity and label their feelings. Again, chat once I get past all this stuff right here.
But coach,
yeah, man, go ahead.
Ain't a part of that issue is my feelings because as a girl dad, there's nothing better than the sound of daddy when I walk in the house every day. When she wake up and see my face, whether I'm next to her or coming out the bathroom, it's daddy. And that plays into my feelings and my emotions. And so in my emotions, I want to go and run to that. And so now she learned the behavior that her smile and her hugs warms me and kind of controls what I do and how I move.
And what conversation am I having with her when I go to her? That's the key. I can still do that as a father, but am I having the conversation with her to help her understand exactly what's going on? Right? Just because you cry to me, I'm gonna always come to you as a father, but that does not mean I condone what you do. And I think that's the space where some of us, just being honest, some of us, we like the feeling of our child calling on us whenever they need us, but we never give our child the honest information that they need to hear at that particular point in time. My bad, man. I'm sorry. Did we kind of respond to that or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to make sure before I moved on. Michelle Ray was actually preaching a sermon over here, y'all. I'm sorry. She said the significance of helping your child to label and identify will usher them in the direction of controlling them teach them that your feelings do not control or manipulate the environment. Identify that their feelings are their own to manage. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was that
So
first one? Controlling?
controlling their feelings. I think that's what she was saying. It will usher them in a direction of controlling them.
Controlling their feelings.
And I think what she was saying as far as controlling them in the direction, and I hope I didn't miss something, that they don't use their feelings to control or manipulate the environment, and so forth and so on. Let me see. Queen V said, I learned that you can be anything you want to be. Don't let your feelings stop you from your goals. Be a leader and not a follower. Absolutely. And that's another one of those things, right? We can be so bogged down to how we feel about reality or what a possibility can be. And we always err in the side of negativity as opposed to thinking about what is actually possible. So when we start thinking in the negative outcome, we're automatically giving ourselves an excuse to quit and not push further. So I like the fact that you brought that to the table. Um, Let me see. Shaking nations with Jesus Christ to show them that feelings are okay, but how to handle things the right way. I agree. Trust is everything. Lisa Keys, when you teach your children ethical behavior, oh, that's good right there. To consider others and allow them to ask questions and communicate with them, identity evolves season after season. I love it. I love it. Help your children to understand feelings. Help your children to understand feeling change every few seconds. Show them examples. One moment they're upset, the next they want to talk. Absolutely right. Michelle says the Bible is all about character creation, absolutely, character development, absolutely. Man, you guys are yes. I got to get past all this again.
So,
Yes,
hey,
But
Lisa Keys, she said something that one before last, when you teach your children ethical behavior. I
yes,
think
Mhm.
that's key, ethical behavior. You know what I mean? I think that that's, the fact that she put the ethical part in there, because there's different ways of teaching, and everything that we teach is not always ethical. You know what I mean? Some of the things were just passed down that wasn't necessarily right. So I think when you're looking at ethics, I think that's very important that we look at what type of ethics we want to pass on as well too.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, I missed Chris' message. I just not seen that. Okay, yeah, absolutely.
no,
So go ahead.
my- I wanted to address Michelle's about the Bible. Is about character building, but I think what it teaches about feelings, it teaches you how to overcome being uh being led by your feelings. Because what he tells the Philippians, he tells them, if there's any virtue, if there's anything good, think on those things. And I think a lot of it, like you brought up earlier, is the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and that controls how, not only, yeah, it controls how we feel too, because how you feel stems from the why, or how you perceive the why. If
Right.
you if Unc say something to me, and I and my mindset is, if somebody used this trigger word, that's a trigger for me. So now I get angry. It's because my perception of what he's telling me. And so the scripture kind of teaches us how to use the way we think, the using our mind as a tool to control our feelings, then our behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely agree with that. Um, I think we got time for. Can we get one more? Can we get one more? Okay. Um, let's shoot for this one. Don't just talk, listen. I think that's important for parents as well. Don't just talk, listen. Um, Question: how do or did you respond when you felt your child wasn't making sense or not saying what you wanted to hear?
Hmm. I think I would ask questions. I think you always ask what they're saying back to them so that they can explain it, because it's a gap in generations. So they may be saying something that's logical to them, but to me, it makes absolutely no sense. So, so that it can make sense to both of us, say it again, and I'm gonna repeat what I heard so that you can hear what I'm hearing and we can dialogue about it. Because if it makes no sense, you just talking and I'm just gonna blow you off, and then neither one of us will grow from that.
Yeah.
Now that's what you would do. What did you do? We want to know.
What did I do with my babies? I listened. I did. I'm a listener. Because one, I don't want to fly off the handle, and I learned early to, anger management tells you put your hands together and shut your mouth and listen. And when I listen, I don't know. I was always all right, and my kids may say something different, but I was always all right in that area. That's why they call me to this day.
So I thought you was going to use your slogan. I don't care about your feelings.
Oh, you know that. Don't come over here with feelings. Nah, but I care about disrespect, and I don't know if Shaking Nations took it as disrespect, but it's just it's ingrained in my head to say when I hear shaking hands. So I didn't mean anything by it when I wrote it. When I was thanking her, I said it, then I caught it like, God, dog, I said it again, but I didn't mean anything by it. So charge it to my head, not my heart. I apologize for that.
There you go, bro.
Wait, my glasses fell. Yeah, that was. But the one after that is when
what?
Yeah.
I'm all out the way. All right.
All right. So
who's next? Yeah, go ahead.
me. All right. So how do you respond when you felt your child wasn't making sense? I'll go with how do you. First of all, it's going to come down to what the conversation is about. Obviously, at the same time, it may not make sense to me, but it may make sense to them because of where they are in their current state right now. I'm going to look at what the conversation is about to see whether or not this is something that I need to go forward with to get more clarity and understanding so I can respond and give them exactly what they want. Or is this something that can get dismissed? Understand that he don't get it now, she don't get it now, but they're going to get it later. You know what I mean? And I think that's a balancing act sometimes too with just communicating with your children, especially as they get older. You know what I mean? What things can you let go that they don't understand, and what things what things do you have to ensure that they learn from you? You know what I mean? Because some things they're not going to learn from us, and some things they may just going to have to learn based off of their experiences. So, um, is what they're saying makes sense? You know what I mean to you? And if it don't, that's okay, because it may make sense to them, and it may not make sense to you right now, but it may make sense to you later on down the road. But I think either way, if you decide to not have that conversation, and not engage if they're not making sense, I do think that at some point in the future, you do need to go back and revisit it. You know what I mean? Depending on what the conversation is, may determine, about how long it takes for you to respond back to it. But, I think at the end of the day, you just have to look at what's worth it, what's worth making sense, what's not making sense, and then respond accordingly. But I'm like rolling. And now, this is back to Son of Timothy 2. Back in the day, bro, you ain't making no sense. This don't make no sense. This is what you need to do. Now, I'm a lot more open to listening, seeing what they have to say, trying to put myself in their shoes, and to see what comes from that. Because I think sometimes just putting yourself or trying to put yourself in your child's shoes, sometimes it's hard because we don't just understand it. So we're just trying sometimes, I think, can help too.
I agree with the how do or how do you, but the how did. So for me, I don't really have much of a how did because I'm still doing. I got young kids, but I have an 11-year-old, 8 and 8. Right? Don't judge me. Uh, and with those three, my the issue becomes me because I always want to help them, or I always want to answer them. I always want to correct them. I always want, because when I'm talking to my kids, I'm in a mindset of trying to rear them. And sometimes that gets in the way of me allowing them to fully express what they're trying to say. Especially, well, one of my sons and my oldest daughter, ooh, they can chat. Them lips can move at 100 miles an hour and it won't stop, you know. But I try. What I have fallen victim to, and I have caught myself recently, is I used to be like, get to the point, but then I have to realize, hey, they don't know how to get to the point, so they're trying to use all the words they can or they know to develop a thought. And so for me, I had to. I'm learning to be one that just sits still and let them finish what they're saying, and then determine based upon because here's the thing about young kids. They're gonna tell you if they want a response or not. You know, they're gonna say that was a question, Daddy. You know, because sometimes I'll be trying to warrant whether or not I should respond or let them go and let them express. And so even with that, so it's at times I find I try to turn it into an actual grown conversation, because not only do I allow them to learn how to express themselves, but uh but I also show them good communicate or allow them to practice communication skills by not trying to respond by talking at them, but try to conversate with them so they can learn how to respond, receive, respond, and communicate well. So I use it as a twofold lesson thing. But
Yeah, okay. Everybody want to be political, so I'll say it. Since
I'm
y'all
learning.
want, no. Y'all want to be political, fine. I say it. Back then, when my child said something that it was disrespectful. I'm just gonna be honest with you. That's what I thought back then. Like, if they said something that wasn't making sense, or even if it went a different direction that I didn't want to hear. Let's just say, like, case in point, I ask a question like, why are you coming home so late? And then I get some off the wall answer. That ain't what I just asked you. Like, so at the end of the day, if you're not answering the question that I asked, it could have been deemed disrespectful. Or, I felt that you was kind of like dancing around the question because you didn't really want to honestly answer the question because you knew an honest answer would get you in trouble. Now, in my older age, I'm a lot like what you guys have just politically expressed. But I'm just going to listen. I'm gonna tell the truth. Listen, man. My ears were wired to hear what I wanted to hear, and if it didn't come in a manner that I wanted it, it no, we was about to have a very one sided conversation. So I'm just being transparent. Now, moving to the other side of the fence. Absolutely, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, because in the midst of asking questions, you can help them further develop the thoughts that they're trying to get out. They're not perfect communicators, neither are you, right? So, in the midst of asking questions, they can formulate their thoughts. In the midst of getting an understanding through the art of asking questions, then we both get an understanding. Maybe she came home late because on their way home, the car broke down, got a flat tire, all this other good stuff. Here's the other piece as well. We got to not automatically assume cynicism in the midst of the outcome of a situation that we don't even know about. Kind of talked about that earlier when it comes down to your future, right? You don't automatically assume the worst. So when it comes down to your child, don't automatically assume the worst. I got it. Nobody knows your child like you. I'm not saying anything against that. However, leave room for a more positive outcome. I think that's the point I'm trying to get at. If they came home late, always consider on the side of positivity. Now, when they come and admit that they willingly violated your rule, now that's a different conversation. So I think that's important to understand. So I agree with these gentlemen. Ask questions, kind of define what understanding looks like on both sides of the fence, and then get to the point to where that child actually feels like they can actually come to you and talk open and honestly, even if it is bad. Like, don't just fly off the handle, right? Find a way to process your emotions, like we just got finished talking about, process how you feel about it, and then have a very calm conversation. You could express disappointment, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You can express disappointment, just don't express anger. That's different. So with that being said, man, listen, I'm appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you guys in the chat. John, what's up, brother? I'm sorry, I done put a couple of your messages up here, and I have not spoken to you yet, so please forgive me for that. Again, welcome to the show, man, and you are always welcome back every week. And Lisa said, Lisa said she used to tell people to get out of her face. Listen, This is the. I'm sorry, Ronnie. You have something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I kind of misunderstood the question, but I'm with you on that. What you just said, how I dealt with it back then. Just ran with now and everything. But yeah, because I'm a member of the NRA, so you gotta, you know.
Hold up. Nah, man. I asked you what did you do. I did that.
I
See,
thought you
coulda
gave
had
me
his-
privileges. I can't
He
mute.
could have had his
I
political
couldn't
hat
mute.
on.
because I'm the little because I'm the
PG.
little brother.
He was keeping it PG.
That's what it
Because I'm the
was.
little
Man.
brother. Okay.
That's what it was.
Your time.
Listen. Again, this is a bittersweet moment for me. So everybody in the chat, this bottom question is for you. Like we've been talking about this for the past 3 weeks, and I'm curious. I just kind of want to understand what point did you resonate with during this entire discussion, not just this one, but the last 3 weeks when it comes down to creating a positive family environment. And brother Chris, he had to leave, so that kind of leaves us to do the final thoughts. So as you guys answer that question, we're going to get ready to dive into our final thoughts. And so, with that being said, we're going to start off with the man, the myth, the legend, the uncle, Junior.
Hey, it is what it is. First of all, man, thanks. I think it's been a great 3 weeks, man. It's been a lot of great conversations. So, um, creating a positive environment. I think if we look back at all the conversations that we've had over the 3 weeks, I think one thing that we can conclude or come to an agreement upon is that it's a whole bunch of layers that goes into creating a positive family environment. There is no just one cookie cutter program that's going to work for everybody. You really have to be intentional on learning and getting information, and figuring out what exactly it looks like to have a positive family environment. Go to your source of information. If it's the Bible, if it's the Quran, if it's whatever set of principles that you use, have some sort of baseline for creating some sort of family environment. Information, podcast, YouTube, all these different avenues. Learn what a positive family environment looks like. And then once you learn that, make sure everybody in the family at some point understands it and understands that it's about the family. It's about the end goal. It's about the overall family, and no one person is overall, or no one person is better than the overall family. So I just want to wrap it up with just saying that I think it's important that we learn what it takes to create a family environment. And then, as long as we have a family, continue to learn how to get better at it and continue to evolve at being the best person in the family that you can be.
And I'm always slow on that unmute draw. If we be 100% honest, our world, our community is jacked up, right? We got some good people in the world still. We got some good brothers on this panel, but as a whole, we jacked up. And here's why: because the family is the nucleus of the community. And since we have destroyed the idea of family, our community is just running rampant with no accountability, with no direction. We just every man for themselves, do what you feel, and who gives a whatever about the next man, right? So why did I even bring that up? Is because the conversation that we're having today in the last 2 weeks, these points and these hard topics to tackle and to actually applicate in our lives, it's hard. It takes a lot of selflessness. It takes a lot of moving yourself and your emotions out the way to get this job done. But in order for us to leave our children and our grandchildren a world and a community that's still standing at the minimum, we got to fix this. And I know it sounds so cliche, we just talking, but we have to fix this. It is, I don't even know how else to say it, but a part of that too is that for those of us who call ourselves friends, brothers, sisters, whatever the case may be, we got to start to ignore to a limit, right? To a limit. We got to start to ignore each other's feelings when it comes to holding each other accountable. Because I can tell you right now, you might say something to me I don't like, and it might make me mad. But I promise you, when I think about that comment later, whether I tell you or not, I'm gonna think on it, and if it makes sense, I have to address it. And that's real. So I just want to, because this is our last segment on this. Like, we have to go back to watch all the videos, dig, do some, let it lead you down rabbit holes of research of how to get this right. And let's get it, man.
Ooh, okay. See, y'all know I'm the old one on here, so I forget. But I think creating a positive family environment, we have to make people know that when they're around us, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be in a relationship with me. It's a privilege to be part of a certain family. And you don't have to be in it, but you get to be in it. So make people that want to be in your circle, want to experience you, realize that they get to experience you, that it's a privilege. And when you do that, you kind of filter out the people that you allow around you, or you allow in your space, and you don't accept any and everything, because any and everything can't go in your circle when you want to elevate. When you want to elevate, somebody else want to play around. When you want to move forward, somebody else want to chill. You have to have the mindset that no, this family is a forward moving family, and we're thinking forward, progressing people. So we have to get together with people of like minds, and not that we're shunning anybody, but everybody has to step their game up. With you in this family, you got to step your game up. You can't. Oh, I'm gonna pull up the rear. Nah, this ain't you pulling up the rear. You got to push me, pull me, something. But we have to be moving forward together. I can't sit there and bury my feet in the sand if I'm trying to move forward. Stuff has to be done. Somebody has to do it. So if we gonna do it, let's get it done. If we're not doing it together.
Man, listen, I think this entire conversation has been good. And I agree with Brother Gaddy. If you have not heard the entire series, please go back and listen to the first two episodes. I think you will get a lot from it. Also, be on the lookout for our membership program. Our membership program is where we're going to get after the how to. The how to is the second piece of the awareness phase. So these conversations are awareness. The membership is focused on how to. So I thought I want to put that out in the atmosphere, because when it comes down to creating a positive family environment, the family is the nucleus of the community. But this is the thing I need to understand. The most important thing to me should be family, not my job, not my education, not any of that stuff. And that's why when Roland mentioned identity, that's why I kind of lean back, because that's my talking point. If you've ever listened to me talk, I talk about identity a lot, right? Your job does not define who you are. Let's be completely transparent. If your job defines who you are, then you have a mistaken identity. If your education defines who you are, you have a mistaken identity. If you have stepped into the responsibility of having a family and you were blessed with a family, it is your responsibility to ensure, especially as a man, to ensure that everybody in that household has everything that they need. Your wife, your son, your daughter, everything. That's your responsibility. Your job is to raise those kids up in the ways that they should go. You, as a man, you teach that young boy how to be a man through layered development. You, as a man, you nurture that young girl so that she can understand what it looks like when a man actually loves her. That way she doesn't fall for the riffraff out in the street. You teach them how to get to the point of having a basic level of emotional intelligence before they leave the home, so a Mack truck doesn't run their emotions over and they call you all heartbroken. That's the thing. You have a tall responsibility as a parent. And the problem, and I think it was young Timothy, and I think Roland mentioned as well. The problem is we live in a society that looks at parenting as borderline a joke, because we will tell the child that the child does not have to listen to the parent. But you also have to look at the other side. Look at the parents not accepting the responsibility that they willingly got themselves into. So you have one side saying, "Hey, don't listen to them. They're not as smart as you are. You have all this, you have all that." Then the other side, you're not doing the things you need to do to raise them up the right way. They need to understand that your job is to help them create a better life for themselves. They don't have to do exactly what you want them to do when it comes down to their career. That's the thing. You need to give them all the tools that you have now. They're supposed to be better than you because you're teaching from a different level of awareness. That's why I said what I said about emotions. If you're teaching them to lean into their emotions and project their emotions on other people, you're setting them up for failure. Why do that when hopefully at your age you know better? That doesn't pass the common sense test to me. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there because these are all great talking points. And again, we appreciate you guys. We value you guys. And I want to make sure that we give you the best of what we have every time we hit the button. So listen, again, if you haven't yet, hit the like button as we get ready to close out for the night. On behalf of these gentlemen, to include my young brother who had to take off, Chris Chris from across the table, right? Or across the table with Chris. Listen, we want to just again extend a warm thank you for all of you guys. Man, I don't think you guys realize how much we look forward to seeing you guys every Friday night. I get excited. I get excited to see these gentlemen on the panel, and we get excited to hold a conversation with you guys because you guys in the chat, you are a part of these discussions. So again, next Friday night, same time, same channel. We will see you then. Have a great rest of your night and an even better weekend.